All right, episode 155. We're going to be talking about doing the extreme to get extreme results. We're going to get started right now. All right, episode 155. We are talking today about doing extreme things to get extreme results. We have a guest in studio today because it's not Brian Force. He decided to go on vacation.
He's driving back on us. I was texting him earlier. He's driving back now.
Is he? Well, yeah. He was trying to make it back, but he didn't make it in time. So, but before we get started, let's. Our show is brought to you by our favorite sponsors, and our first one up is MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. If you're looking to get that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, I'm dragging ass today. I'm real tired today.
We're all feeling this weather change.
Definitely feeling it. So, MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. If you want that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, look, he's licensed here in Texas and Oklahoma, so he is definitely the best loan officer to choose from because you want your clients to get approved. You're probably like, hey, I know my client doesn't have any money, Justin, right?
Correct.
But Mortgage Mike could get it approved.
With no money.
With no money.
No.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, that's what you heard.
It's a terrible spot.
It's the best. It's the best.
Don't email him with that.
Yeah. And Armadillo Home Warranty. You can tell I'm just...
That's somebody else.
Lord.
Armadillo Home Warranty. It's like, this is my first day on the job. Leave me
That's
alone.
right.
This is the different seat that I'm in. That's what's messing me up.
Well, people don't realize it dropped 35 degrees here locally.
Yeah.
And everybody who lives here and was just trucking around at 101 degrees all of a sudden weirdly has to deal with 71. And it feels like we're dying. What is happening? Why can't I breathe? Why am I swallowing all the things inside my head?
Don't even know what that means.
No, I don't either. But normally I can just rattle this off. This just comes out so smooth.
You were so adamant about having a sexy camera, and it threw you off.
I'm like, Justin, we may need to switch.
I don't move my spot.
Yeah, I'm going to blame the chair this
Let's
time.
do it.
So, all right, Armadillo Home Warranty, armadillo.1/Tor, T-O-R-E. Look, this isn't your father's home warranty. I was hanging out with Theron the other day, and we were doing a mastermind with a group of EXP agents, and Theron goes into his pitch for Armadillo. I'm like, look, that's a great pitch, Theron, by the way, but the main reason why you want to refer your clients to Armadillo Home Warranty, armadillo.1/Tor, is because if something were to go wrong with the house and your client makes a home warranty claim, the benefit that you have or that your client has when they use an Armadillo home warranty is that they can choose to go pick their own contractor, and Armadillo will reimburse you sometimes the same day. So it's really quick. To me, that is the biggest reason why you're going to want to refer out Armadillo. And yes, Theron, I always tell you how to do your job, and I will continue to do that as long as you're a sponsor of the show.
Welcome to the party, dude.
Wait. How do you know that's him? It just says Facebook user.
There's this weird thing. We know it's him, but we got this weird thing where it just pops up Facebook user, and it says because of people's privacy settings.
Well, that's good
for
to
some
know.
reason.
So that's good to know. So when I'm at home next time, I'm just gonna randomly say things
Just
if I'm other
randomly
people.
comment.
Please do.
Do you think we could probably guess? We could make this a game. So when Justin, you just start you typing things, and we can guess on that.
I mean, I've been watching your podcast for I watched my episode 2 years ago with you.
Do you keep watching it?
No, I've never watched it again.
Oh,
Fair enough.
yeah.
Until
You made it sound like you watch your episode. I don't know if it's just on repeat at maybe the Sphere Rocket office.
Well, no, actually, that last episode is one of our biggest problems in our business.
Oh.
It
It got you too much business.
It got us too much business, and it talks about pricing that's 3 years old.
Ooh, so if you want to go back to that episode, whatever that is,
And claim that pricing.
Yeah.
Claim it.
Yeah. So Justin won't talk pricing today with SphereRocketVA.com.
Yeah, because it's free now.
Ooh.
Whoa. I got some questions about this.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's finish this up with our last sponsor. And maybe
Best
it's Sphere
sponsor.
Rocket. Maybe it's Sphere Rocket in there because he's going to be talking about how you can get that for free. But it's homewarddfw.com. Go talk with Dana Wynn. I was on a call with her yesterday, and we were chatting. We were doing a 3-way with another dude. And
Fucking. It's
it was
Wednesday. It's just Wednesday.
No, I mean, we were.
I get it.
We were on a
I know.
3-way call.
I know.
And we were chatting about how we can help get this guy's house leased out.
Mm-hmm.
And we came up with a winning game plan to do that.
I bet you did.
Yeah. Jeez, Matt.
Sorry, Dana.
I'm just
HomeWordDFW.com for the best property management company here in Dallas, who's going to put their clients in the best position to win when it comes to leasing their house out, Matt.
I know, dude. Look, I'm just here. I don't know what the hell's happening today.
I think that was the best spot.
It was fantastic. He recovered wonderfully.
Yeah, we're going to use that one for every Instagram.
Do you just need me to run the podcast by myself?
It might.
for sure.
It might be
Might not
better.
be a bad idea.
sure.
We could
honestly.
have some of the Sphere Rocket VAs running at this point.
All right, so let's get down to it. So,
Let's
all right,
get down
episode
to it.
155. We were talking about what we didn't want to talk about is just how we could, use all Justin's VAs, how we can just leverage it out to millions. And so we were coming up with something. It's like it's a Friday.
Might as well
Feels
be.
that way.
Yeah, and so what we wanted to talk about is right now that everyone is just still really worried about this market shift. They're really worried about contracts falling out. They're coming back on. They're getting fired. Buyers aren't wanting to make offers. And so ultimately, how do we solve that problem? And Justin's like, look, do extreme things to get extreme results. So first off, if you don't know who Justin Elson is, Justin, can you tell us who you are?
Yeah, been in real estate since I was 16. Done pretty much everything under the sun. Ran the team, led the team, destroyed the team. Did that from 16. As an ISA at 16, obviously I wasn't licensed. Did that for a few years, went to college, dropped out of college because I was making more money in real estate, which then led to a few years later, after teaching hundreds and hundreds of Keller Williams market centers, jumped over to EXP and started a VA company. Created about 4,000 virtual assistant jobs in the last 2.5 years.
Which is amazing.
And it's obviously our newest and greatest 8-figure company. So a lot of people ask if I sell real estate. No, not anymore. That's not what I love to do.
You don't sell real estate, but you help real estate agents
Correct.
build their book of business. Because look, you were an operator in that. You've done it before, and you saw where the problems were.
Absolutely.
Right. So again, we use it. Money changes hands when problems are solved, and a lot of real estate agents, their problems are what? What do they have? They're stuck in the business, and they're stuck doing the day-to-day things that also won't help them go get more business. Right.
Yep.
And so, what is something like, we were talking about, let's go into doing extreme things to get extreme results. What is something like that? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so like one of the best examples, which is really cool because this is in a KW office. I didn't know your studio was in a KW office.
It's just like our extra office.
I mean,
that
it's
we
kind of
it's
cool.
like cheaper than
I mean,
the
it's genius.
studio.
I mean, Nick's putting it on Brian's bill, so I like
That's
that.
what I
Let's
said.
not ruin it. Jeez, now Brian's gonna start charging me.
We'll just ask your sponsors for more money. So,
Yeah,
that's all we do.
So, but no, I mean, the funny reason I say that is like Ben Kinney, who was someone that I learned a lot from through some mutual contacts back in the day. I went to one of his conferences up in Bellingham. I was probably 17, 18, maybe I was 19. I don't remember the exact. It was sometime back then. I was young, right? Way back in the day, and way back, like a year. No,
That's what I'm saying,
years
like,
ago.
Yeah.
But somewhere around there, I went up to Bellingham, Washington. Flew into Seattle. First off, I didn't know Bellingham was like 2 hours away from Seattle. So I got to sit with a whole bunch of top agents and just talk to them. And one of the things they're like, you're going to learn, Ben's extreme. He's extreme. And then one of the first things he says from stage is like, my, team, they're expected in their first month on the team to do 30 to 40 open houses. And I was like, hey, Dad? Because my dad, who was, who got me into this business at 16, I was like, your agents only run like one a month. And they complain about that. Like, why is Ben's team all happy to run 30 to 40? And it was not only a mindset thing around the culture and things like that, but they also had leverage, right? They had people in place finding the open houses because maybe they didn't have enough listings. They had people doing the sign running. They had people preparing the boxes and the contact sheets. And then after the open house, they had someone putting it into the CRM, right? Like the agent would take a picture of it and then a VA would put it in the CRM and then someone would follow up with that lead if the agent didn't. And it just started to make me think. And that's where I really first got my extreme action learning was from Ben, because for you that know Ben, Pretty extreme dude.
Yeah, I think on Facebook a couple of years ago, he just took off to go like into Mexico or something for 30 days or an island for 30 days where he was just like by himself. He's like, I'll see you guys in 30 days. It's like, all right, dude, later.
But what was interesting about that is everybody's like, well, I'm not like Ben, or I'm not like Nick or Matt or Brian. What was interesting, none of his agents were like him either. But because of the culture he built of those new people coming in, it's all they knew. And so, I mean, for me, that's a great example of like, for all these agents freaking out, are you doing extreme things right now? Right? Are you doing things that you think are normal, or are you just not in the right environment?
We've got a bunch of conferences real estate wise. If you're like in real estate world right now, everybody's either at KW Mega Camp or at Tom Ferry, right? It seems like that's where everybody's at locally right now or in real estate right now. And I think one of the things that came out of this yesterday, and it's been a common theme in any down market or shifting market that I heard Gary Keller say, and I think it's probably echoed by pretty much every broker and everybody who makes it has a clue right now, is that like, if you're not willing to do more and be uncomfortable in that level of action right now, you're probably going to find your business slipping and you'll make less money this year than you did last year.
Yep.
Right? And maybe that doesn't equate fully to like the most extreme things people can think of. But for some people just legitimately getting uncomfortable, I was doing this today. I started doubling down on social media stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Like I always post a ton of crap, but I'm trying to find a way to actually be more intentional with that because I've gotten so inefficient with my time that in order to double down on stuff, I need leverage. Otherwise, there's not enough hours in the day for me to get my business where I want it to be in this type of market, right? And I think there's a lot of real estate agents who are feeling that they don't know exactly what they're supposed to do next.
Well, Justin, let me ask you this on taking these extreme actions, and the open house is definitely
a lot.
That is a lot, and that is definitely extreme, and I bet you there's going to be results from that, right? What do you see like when your company's doing the intake form, you know, over at Sphere Rocket, and you know I believe you ask, what are you trying to do? What are your goals?
Yep.
Where do you feel that most agents are holding themselves back within taking extreme measures?
Yeah, so for me, like I always say, everything duplicates, right? Like a lot of people make fun of, you know, like multi-level marketing, or they make fun of big organizations. Like you guys know Ed Milet, right?
Yep.
How did Ed Milet become so wealthy? It was multi-level marketing to some degree within their World Financial. And when you look at the biggest models, the biggest companies, the biggest everything, you very rarely will find solo agents that can expand to the level of their income. So I'll kind of take you through. This is a longer roundabout answer. But I was at a mastermind the other day, and I asked all my people there, I was like, what's your dream income? And the answer, astoundingly, was like 5 to 10 million a year profit. And I was like, cool. How many people are on your team? And they're like, it's just me. And so then I was like, okay, cool. No problem. Why don't you have a team? You know, and I got answers like, I don't want to lead people. I don't want the headache. I don't want that. And so they want 10 million profit, and they want to do it by themselves or with a small team, right? I want an admin, a small lean and mean team, which is cool. And I was like, all right, cool. So what I want you to do for the next 30 minutes, I want you to take this exercise. I want you to go find someone that is just like you that's making $10 million. They couldn't find it. It didn't exist, right? Those people that were making $10 million profit as an owner, they owned multiple companies. When they owned multiple companies, they needed multiple people. When they owned, you know, when they had a big organization of real estate, what real estate agent's making 10 million profit that doesn't have 50 agents or 50 admin, right? And so when we were talking about like Sphere Rocket intake, one of the things we're looking at is what are your goals, but like, are your goals even in alignment with what you want? Does that make sense?
Isn't this just kind of like the bullshit disadvantage of 10X culture?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like we just get into this place where it's like, well, you said it out loud, so you're going to 10X it. And it's like, okay, that's cool. But there's a whole lot of steps that come after that of asking yourself realistic questions of, are you that person? Are you really going to get up and do what it takes to start building something that becomes that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest disadvantage is people just think that all they have to do is talk about it and it will somehow manifest in their life. I mean,
there's like literally physically, I mean, I always tell people there's the anomalies, right? I hear the agent selling 250 homes by themselves with one admin.
Working part-time.
Yeah, working part-time. Sure, there's that person, but are you going to be that person? Are you going to be the jackpot winner? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not going to discourage you from that, but it's just so rare. And, you know, I always tell people, because this is just so true of anybody watching, like, who's the agent in your office that closes 60 to 100 deals a year by themselves? look at their lives. How is their spouse? How's their life with their spouse? How's their life with their kids? Usually they're the agents that run around saying I'm burned out. Usually they're the agents that say I'm not making enough money. Like, just not a happy person usually.
Well, and unless you take all of that money you make and somehow invest it wisely, you're just going to be on the treadmill of you being your own boss.
Absolutely.
Until you're so wiped you can't do it anymore. And then you're going to be relying upon an income that you can no longer provide for yourself.
No, not at
Right?
all. Yeah. And you finally hit a wall. It's a plateau. And the only way to get through plateaus is to change something.
Yeah.
So within this and staying within the topic of taking extreme measures. So
Yeah.
what you're seeing is in you're spot on. Again, you want to net $1 million. Well, and you're trying to do it by yourself, or you're just trying to do it with an assistant that you kind of halfway trained, right? So if we were again, I'm going to use your company. If I'm hiring a Sphere Rocket VA virtual assistant that's going to help me do extreme things, what helps me get to my goal? Is it a marketing piece? Is it the operational piece? Most people that I talk to want someone to go make calls for them when they don't know how to make calls themselves.
Yep.
So what is it? What is that factor right now to help those agents at this very moment with this market shift to put them in the best positions to win so that they don't go out of business?
Yeah, so one of the really interesting things that they teach is like to go from, let's say, 100,000 to 200,000, you got to be spending based on 200,000, right? I always tell people, let's say you get to 200,000 and you're maintaining 200,000. Well, how do you maintain 200,000? It's 10% marketing, 10% salaries, whatever it is. So what makes you think at 100,000 that you can spend like 100,000 and then get to 200,000? It makes no sense, just math-wise, right? And so we tell people, if you're at 100,000 and you want to go to 200,000, sure, let's lead with some revenue, right? So maybe you need to make some profit at 100,000 for 3 months before you can go take this action, right? I'm risky. I won't wait. I'm just going to go and take that action and risk losing my house, right? But that's how risky I am. But, maybe you go 100,000, 100,000, 100,000, save some money, then go take that action. But when you're to make 200,000 a year, you got to spend some extra money. So like for me, when I analyze people, I look at, I'm a big believer in the MREA book, 10% salaries. If you're making 200,000 a year, you can afford $20,000. So I say, in my world, I'm obviously biased to VAs. I go, well, what can I go spend and make for 20? What can I get for 20,000? That's 4 virtual assistants. And so then I break down. I look at my business and go, okay, at 100,000, this is how I got here. Sphere of influence, sphere of influence, sphere of influence. Cool. Well, let's maybe double down on that to start, right? So maybe I hire a VA to double down on my sphere of influence. I do 36 touches. I'm going to take it to 75. Hey, I don't do any social media or I suck at it. I'll get a VA for that, right? So it's analyzing where you're at, where you're going, and ultimately looking at where you're going and what would you need to be doing to get there, and then hire based on that.
So Matt, like when I just heard what Justin said, like taking extremeness, right? When I hear him talking on that, most of the time people are going to become fearful.
Yeah.
Right? They talk about, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to burn the boats. But really they don't.
Yeah.
Right? What they end up doing is they're hearing Justin and like, oh, it makes sense. Like, I can go hire 4 VAs. But then they're like, well, I don't want to train them. Right? I don't want to be responsible for somebody. And then ultimately they're putting themselves not in a winning position. And ultimately, what do they end up doing? They start fretting about it, or they stay in this fearful mindset, and it's almost like going into business depression, where they're not making their calls. They're just kind of comparing themselves to others, and then ultimately they just get out of the business.
I've been on this mistake train on both sides of the hiring deal. I've done the hiring from a place of scarcity where you're trying to hire like the most affordable thing imaginable to come in and take care of your very base layer problems, because you can't even get your head far enough above water to see what the hell is even going on past like the ability to not drown, right? And then been on the other side where I've had some money to devote to it, but still been just as clueless about after I get through this initial pain, because I was always hiring from pain. I was never doing what you're talking about, right? Like being at 100,000 and saying, okay, I need to get to 200,000. Let's save 3 months worth of money. Let's figure out a game plan. It was always, I need somebody now. Everything in my world is falling apart. Somebody else needs to come fix this for me. And then realize that after they fixed the couple of things that I thought were the most detrimental things in my business, I realized I had 38 hours left in a week because I had 2 hours worth of actual problems for somebody who could slow down and fix them. And then I wasn't prepared enough to provide that person with enough work and opportunity in my business to really take me to the next level. So I've done it poorly on both ends. And I think whether it's VAs or whoever you hire, those are the two things that agents do. They hire way too early and too aggressively and don't know what they need, or they hire later, having somebody come in and try and fix their business has gotten a little bit too big for them, and it's unrealistic expectations about what that person can possibly pull off. And I'm sure that's what you deal with on a regular basis.
Oh, 100%. Like, I literally tell people, 20% of people that sign up for Sphere Rocket are going to fail.
Yeah.
Not because our company is making them fail. It's just from a humanistic characteristic that we don't want to manage people. We are wired to not want to manage people. We're wired to want to go lay on the beach and report to no one or have no one report to us. However, when you look at who lays on the beach all around the year, has all the money flowing in, they have people reporting to them, right? And and I always know someone always makes the joke, I'm EXP now, I used to be KW, whether it's profit share, like revenue share for a lot of people listening that understand that world. When you look at the top, profit share earners at KW, do you think they're just laying on a beach and have no direct reports?
Yeah.
No, those are all people that have big companies, right? There's very few. There might be the 1% that burned everything down and then now just relies on that, but 99% of people don't have that, right? Same with EXP. When you have revenue share, and very few of those people don't have team members, and it's just kind of crazy to think that you can just do it all by yourself and get. The problem is with social media, right? You look at social media and you're like, that person's laying on the beach, and you don't see that they have 15 team members. People don't know. They're still shocked that I have 90 virtual assistants.
I've always been blown. We've known you now long enough and watched this journey from the point where he was just having virtual assistants do regular domestic things for him, and now it's just there's this insane army of people that just essentially keep Justin Nelson moving through this planet.
I mean, you literally just met one. There's one sitting in here.
Yeah, exactly.
They virtually iron his clothes.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to the point where he's leveraged out. I mean, yeah, you're right. What you just said, Justin, is someone's here. He has an in-house personal trainer that just started with him, right? And so, I mean, that's something that he's committed to, and that's talking about going to the extreme, right? So if we want to, if it's okay to talk about that, Justin, I mean, you take extreme actions to get extreme results, and so that's something that your health is important because you want to be around for your companies, your families, and everything else. So what
Well, it's one of those things we tell people, you have to know yourself. And I think Gary Vee used to say this a lot, and it's actually kind of funny because he's also someone I learned this in-person trainer from, is he says there's nothing wrong with telling yourself that you have no self-control around food. He's like, but if you're willing to admit it, there's ways to fix it.
Yep.
It's I will never be able to travel on the road by myself and go to all these awesome parties, all these awesome venues. I'm going to 5-star venues every time because when I go into someone's city, they're like, they want to treat you. I'll never be able to withhold myself. But this whole week that I've had this personal trainer that lives with me, Luke's literally comes to the podcast to make sure that you don't have snacks on the table here. Yep. He literally came with me to make sure you don't have alcohol hidden in your cup that I'm stealing, right? He's literally that accountable. And so I think it's kind of...
Sorry.
I think it's kind of the same way with agents. It's becoming and realizing we have too many agents that are like, I'm good at social media. And it's like, are you really? Right? I could fool myself to say I'm good at fit. I'm not, right? So I think it's just really taking extreme responsibility for where you're falling short.
Dude, I love this conversation. I'm going to walk out a little bit on a limb on something I've said before about this exact mindset thing.
Yeah.
When we talk about food and weight, it's one of the few mindset problems that is physically apparent, right? We can look at somebody who we consider that needs to go work on their fitness and look at them and make a physical judgment on them. The reality is it's a mindset issue like anything else, and most of us are fortunate enough to have our bullshit mindset hidden behind our dome and our eyeballs, and we can hide from what that looks like. But make no mistake, every single person has this exact thing that you just don't want to admit to yourself that you're not good at, that you're going to go tell the world you're awesome at, that you're not going to ask for help for, that you're going to continue to try and beat to death on your own, and you are probably going to fail like you have failed the 50 other times to change that thing about your life. And if you can just admit that maybe you need to ask for some help in that moment, you can move a lot faster, a lot quicker.
No, yeah. I mean, and Rebecca just commented on here that she loves the idea of having someone to help keep her on track with her YouTube channel and social media.
She's another person that I think of that I look at her stuff and I think she's super consistent.
Yeah.
And so to know that she thinks I could still use help, we're all in this same space of I could do more if I had help, right? This is what my capacity is able to do.
Do you believe, and whoever wants to answer this, do you believe that when we compare ourselves, you kind of struck a nerve with me, talking about Rebecca, is that when we compare ourselves to other, that it holds us back from taking extreme action.
Oh, 100%. Because here's the thing. Most of us compare ourselves, and I'm not Rebecca, so don't take this in that context. When I compare myself to others, usually I used to compare myself to just people around me. So an example is when I'd go into my office at the real estate brokerage I was at, I'd go in there and I would compare myself to everybody at the real estate brokerage I was at. Problem was, the top person at that real estate brokerage only sold 100 homes a year, right? And then I'd go to a conference and then I'd compare myself there, and I'd go, holy shit, they have 5 producers in the same size office that sell 500 homes a year? And so for me, when I compared myself in my environment, it held me back from extreme action, because I was like, well, I'm selling 75. I'm pretty good, right? Where when I went to the conferences, I said, holy shit, they're selling 500. So now I'm going to go take extreme action. I'm going to do Ben Kinney's 30 open houses. Like the month I did 30 open houses, I think I closed like 6 contracts that month, which at Colorado at 300,000-400,000, I was pretty happy at 1920. So
absolutely.
So I think it's actually maybe the opposite, where you thought you were going to ask the question, but for me, like actually comparing actually can hurt you if you're comparing to the wrong people.
I'm glad you answered that way, because I mean, I compare myself to others where I believe that I should be already, but it that drives and motivates me, where I know where others, when they do it,
and it has its downside too, because it motivates me too to compare myself to others, but you can also have a downside to a negative.
I'm one of those people too that sometimes that comparison can become debilitating, right? Like if you allow yourself to slide too far into that mindset, you start looking at other people where they're supposed to be, and you think you're supposed to be there, and you're like, well, screw it, dude. That's too much ground to make up, right?
It's like Dustin Running, who I was just having my life coaching call with.
Yeah.
He's like, if you can learn to love yourself so much that you're truly satisfied in your position, use comparison to fill the gap. Right? Use comparison to fill the gap of knowing that there's more, and there's more in you, because you know if it's been done before, it can be done again. If you're using it to say, I am a loser, I suck, I'm not doing enough, that's not good, right? That's coming from a place of beating yourself down.
Yeah.
But I use it as like, it's possible. A great example of this is Andrew Franklin, who was my sponsor at EXP. For the longest time, I just thought this guy was a god. He is a god, but when I got to know him, I stayed at Airbnbs with him, rode Ubers. He likes, we all say about him, he puts his pants on the same way we do. Everyday guy you would never know sells 2,000 homes a year. And so it's kind of the same thing as like, we make comparisons, and it can be positive or negative.
I think a lot of these people that we're talking about too would also be the first people to admit that they have become more beholden on other people. Yeah. The more successful they've gotten, their businesses, their life, their income relies on a huge group of people all buying into the same idea, way more than it did when it was them and a couple of admins and a few agents, right? And I think that's the commonality, is those people aren't afraid. You talk about the agents earlier who are like, I'll just do it all by myself. I think some of that comes from a lack of understanding of how difficult it is. I also think by nature, real estate is an entrepreneurial endeavor, and we're all getting away from that job and that boss we used to have, right? And so we do a lot of things like, well, I don't cold call people because I don't want to be cold called. I don't door knock because I wouldn't want to be door knocked. Well, I don't want to be somebody's boss because I hated having a boss. Type shit, right? And at the end of the day, these people who are super successful will tell you the only reason they're successful is because there are dozens, if not hundreds, of people under them making that happen, right?
And how do you think they got there in the first place, right? They took those actions. Like, Justin, you're 26, right? 27? 25. I'm aging you there. So 25 years old, and there's going to be people that hear this and be like, I can never be as successful as Justin. And by the way, and that's why I asked this question. I was, just so I know, I was client number 2 at Sphere Rocket.
In February or March of 2020?
February of 2020, right? And so, first off, you built this in 2.5 years of an 8-figure company, right? So all it took was 1 client, 2 clients, and then you started putting yourself in different rooms to go and start exposing your product to more and more, right? There was, I think it was Michael Jordan that said this. I shared this during 2020. I could be completely wrong, Jesse, so don't laugh at me. Jeez, God, that's ridiculous. Is that it was talking about you see this beautiful brick wall, And this brick wall, how do you think it got there? It didn't just magically appear. It took brick by brick. Someone had to put one brick down, two brick down, and then the next layer, the next layer. It didn't just happen, Justin, that you started like, I'm going to start this virtual assistant company. And the next day it's worth, 8 figures. That we employ over 4,000 people. Mm-hmm. That we're changing the lives of not only real estate agents, but you're changing the lives of your remote working team there in the Philippines.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing to get to go see that in person.
Right? And so absolutely, it looked cool to watch. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately, when we start doing this, it took extreme action, and you're just like you're still taking, you're not holding back, you're still pushing it. You're still pushing hard because you haven't reached the pinnacle. You haven't reached the end zone yet for the vision you have for your company. And too many times, just like Livian here, so to fill your guys' cup, I mean, you guys just surpassed 100 million in closed volume, right? And that didn't happen overnight, right? Yeah. It happened with failing forward. It happened with all the shit that was going that it looked like. If you go back in time when you and Brian partnered up, I guarantee you how many nights were there that you guys were probably having some drinks, and you're like, there's no way this is going to work.
Yeah, it's like everybody just left again.
Yeah. Yeah. And sales weren't happening, and that's not a good mindset to be in. But you push forward, and you still take, extreme action. And look, using this is very buzzwordy of this, but it does require that, Justin, how many times, if you're willing to share, how many times were you on this journey, and this journey you're on, that you're like, I don't know if I'm really cut out for this? How many times you're like, you know what, this is a lot of stress, a lot of pressure? How many times did you feel like, all right, I'm out, and you wanted to eject?
I mean, honestly, last week was probably the last. I mean, so like, you guys don't know this, but the hour call I just took in the other room was with Dustin, and we were talking about taking on capital. And the interesting thing is people think that when you get a business to 7-8 figures, right? If I wanted to go sell this company tomorrow, I could sell it for 10, 15, 20, 25 million, depending on the right type of buyer. Our last evaluation was 20 million plus. And the only reason I share that is people think like, holy shit, he must just be have cash coming out of his bed frames, right? It's not true. I'm literally in the other room talking about, should I take on capital to fix cash flow problems? And so like, what's interesting, but that's such a good problem to have. Right? Like, some people are like, okay, cool. You built this massive company. It's like the Amazons and the Netflixes of the world. Like, you can go and build things and keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and you get new problems, new extremes. And so, to answer your question, I'm in territory I don't even know. I could sit here and just go, cool, we're just going to coast. No more new adventures. No more new sponsorships. We're just going to stack cash for the next few years. But that doesn't do anybody any good in my organization. Ben Kinney used to say, I'm just going to give Ben Kinney all the credit today, I guess. Ben Kinney used to say, you're selfish if you build a company and then you just stop growing it. And what he means by that, a lot of agents go, oh, well, what if I don't want to grow it anymore? What his purpose was, he's like, grow a world so big that other people can live within it. Because I have to tell my team, like, I have to be honest with them. If I want to stop right now and just coast, I have to tell all my sales reps, you can never make more than this because it's just not physically possible because we're going to coast. Again, I got to tell my VAs, you can't get any more pay raises because we're going to coast, right? I got to tell them, hey, all your fellow countrymen and women that want jobs, can't do it, right? Because we're not growing. So I think it was more about looking at last week was the answer, and then it's because you have different problems at different levels.
And when going through those times, and I'm asking you guys this, but I will tell you, like, I've had those since we started the company too, and ultimately, you're right. It is selfish if you coast, and for the last several years, the Good Home team was coasting, right? I got fat and happy and content, and then ultimately, there you have to have the wake up calls, right? And when you get that way, and with this, still staying on this theme of taking extreme action to get extreme results, is that, when you take action, you pretty much start seeing results right away, right?
100%. Well, it's one of those things that I was reading a news article the other day. There was this 22-year-old, he owned $1 billion company.
Shoo.
And he stepped away to put a CEO into place because he says, I want to coast, I want to go live the life I want to do, but I don't want my new lifestyle to affect the growth of the company or the people. And so real estate's one of the only industries, which is really interesting, where we don't think about putting someone in our place to grow it faster.
Yeah.
Every other business you think about it like that, like restaurant owners, how many people do you know that own restaurants that own multiple? Right? They don't say, I'm just going to keep running this restaurant and grow it as large as I can. No, they put someone in place to do that, which, in real estate, that's tricky, of course, but it's interesting that real estate has so many things that we don't do that other industries do. It just kind of strikes me as odd sometimes.
Yeah. No, that's I think we can take this in several different directions on this, and you know, I appreciate you being, you know, raw and transparent on that, and you know, I know that, you know, with Matt and myself, our journeys together and watching them grow and everything else is that, you know, if you're not taking those actions, then again it starts to stagnate, and opportunity and money doesn't flow towards stagnation. It always flows towards you know where that movement and energy is.
And I think what he said about creating that world that's big enough, that was what really finally snapped for me, and like why I would want to do more than what I was doing. Because like for me, it wasn't really about me, right? Like, you know, I've talked about that on the show before. I won't dive into that, but like the idea that you could build something big enough where other people could come in and make enough money to support their family in a way they never imagined. That sounded, if you would have told Matt that, who used to check out groceries at Hy-Vee in Marshalltown, Iowa, who got canned for like stealing $5, that dude would have never believed that somehow he'd be part of something that allowed other people to like to grow into, to have whatever it was that their family needed.
First
right?
off, let's walk us through the $5 of stealing.
Dude, it was just like, look. I'll tell this story because I would never do this now. But back in the day, people used to write checks a lot, right? Like at the grocery store, they would physically write checks, and like I thought that they would never figure out. If I, like, somebody wrote a $20 check and I endorsed it for $25 and then just took the $5, it took them less than a shift and a half to figure that out. And they were like, hey, stupid, leave. I barely graduated high school, dude. Don't fuck with me. I don't know what you want from me. It was stupid. I got fired over $11 at the end of the day, and I gave the $11 back, and that was the only job I was ever fired from.
Well, at least you didn't go to jail.
I was 14, 15 years old. It was just stupid.
And we could be talking to a different Matt Kelderman
You
right
could
now,
be, yeah.
You know, having to call collect.
A life of crime in Marshall County.
Yes.
That's right. Also, watch out for those chicks.
Yeah, I'd be a thousandaire already.
You could write some checks to Justin.
Yeah.
Put in some capital.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Just float it right through the register.
So Justin, let's wrap this up because I know that you're on a tight schedule, and we've got to get back. There is another conference, by the way, Matt. Leaving out the Build conference.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
The Build conference with Tony Robbins.
There's a lot of people. There's like 20,000 people in Texas. Right?
There is right now. There's a whole bunch of people here right now. So you touched on something at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
How are we getting some virtual assistants for free?
Yeah. So really interesting. A lot of people don't know this. I've actually never made this announcement public. So if you're listening and you're like freaking out right now, saying I just paid Justin money and what do I get a refund? Like
That's what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah. So we've actually created some new programs which are really cool. If you've ever talked to us before, you should probably talk to us again. All of our old programs you've heard of, especially the one from the last podcast, they don't even exist anymore. We've made some really cool new ones at a high level. We have we basically have packages now where we don't want to limit how many VAs you get. We used to go, first off, our old package, you were 50% cheaper than any other VA company in the world.
So it's still a great deal.
Still a great deal, the last one. But so the next one's even better, right? Because what we found on the last one was like, all right, you get your first VA, 50% cheaper than any other competition. Second VA, third VA, you just keep paying us over and over and over again. And then I just said, well, what if we just charge you one-time fee a month, so roughly $1,000 a month, and I'll give you as many virtual assistants as you need. You need 3, 5, 10, 20. Want to fire them all at one time and get another 20? Like, we've become a new program, so right now we have this program called Accelerator. $1,000 a month, you get as many VAs as you need. Now, let's say you hire one VA at $3-4 an hour. You're $1,500 a month with our $1,000 fee and the cost of the VA. So you're still about 50% cheaper than hiring a U.S.-based employee. Now, we might be the same cost as another VA company if you only get one, right? But I want you to get 2, 3, 4, 5, and you save a ton of money. Now, the free part is we have this new thing where let's say, I'm just going to show you the math, and I'll be transparent with you. Let's say, Nick, you sign up for this program because you're a part of the program,
Yep.
right? You refer me 5 people. 5 people paying me $1,000 a month is what?
$5,000
Times 12 months.
60.
So you just made me $60,000 that year. Guess what I'm going to do for you, Nick?
You're going to give me $60,000?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be cool.
He's going to give you 60,000 VAs.
Yeah. But what I'll do, Nick,
Do everything.
What I'll do, Nick, is I'm going to say, hey, Nick, thanks for the $60,000. I'm going to give you your 12 back.
Okay.
So now you're in a program where you get unlimited virtual assistants. You get all of our coaches. We have over 40 trainings a month. You get all access to all of my private masterminds that are all in person at massive 25,000 square foot Airbnbs. You're in it for free. And so we've almost built, there's different levels of this, right? Some brokerages have like caps. Some brokerages have like the Icon Award where you get to be there for free. Same thing as that, right? We've built this same thing where we went, what VA company out there allows people to send a few referrals and then to have access to this program for life?
Yeah.
And I was like, because that's what I want. I want those that are scaling to have it for free. Like, that's a really cool thing to be like, yeah, that person over there, they use Fear Rocket. They haven't paid me a dime in years because they sent me a few friends. Because a lot of people think that, like, it's like referrals, you're trying to be selfish, trying to make more money. I'm like, no. I was just in the Philippines for 30 days. It's the coolest experience to watch these people get jobs and change the life of not only them, but people here in the U.S. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm being selfish myself. I'm playing too small. I need to get bigger, and I need to scale faster. And so we came up with this program. We designed it for a long time, and it's how people get VAs for free now.
Look, I will tell you that the program is really awesome. I'm a client of it, right? So I am paying the $1,000 a month, and I use it and abuse it. And
I was actually talking to somebody else the other day who I was just at an event with who was talking about bringing some more on because they're a part of it too.
Yeah, so I have now, because of Justin. So 2020, when Justin and I sat down, I knew who he was, but I met him right before COVID. Like, it was
Virtually, I never met you in person.
No, we met in 2020, Justin.
In person?
In person.
Oh, I lived in Dallas.
You lived in Dallas. We met at Main Street Cafe.
Someone's taking extreme
with
measures.
Elizabeth.
He doesn't even remember the places he lived.
Yeah.
That is one thing this dude
Nick,
did. He will just up and move.
I apologize. I moved to Nashville. I've lost a few brain
Yeah,
cells
that's
since
okay.
Broadway.
Jeez, that was a special meeting in my heart.
Oh, man.
And so, but I did not believe in the virtual assistants, right? I used some other ones. Goes with Mod.
Yeah. I used them too.
Used that one. Did not go well. It was not a pleasant experience, and had some other ones. And I was like, I sat down at this meeting because Elizabeth Austin was like, hey, you need to meet Justin. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to meet this guy. Like, I'm not virtual assistant's bullshit.
Man, I don't remember any of this. I thought you were excited to see me.
No, I was not. Because
I was not.
I didn't know what you were selling. I didn't know what this was about.
Well, I didn't. You're my second client. I also didn't know what I was
Yeah,
selling at
that's
that
true.
time.
That is true. And so ultimately from that, what really sold me is how you were using it in your personal life, how they were ordering groceries for you. They were taking care of this. And I'm like, how? And so you broke down the process and where most people fail at this, right? If they don't understand using it. I know Brian loves his remote working team.
Yep.
And where most people fail is, one, they don't treat them like real people, right? And they just expect that this person's going to come with the knowledge they have.
Yeah.
And they're not willing to spend time with them over Zoom, over Google Meetup, however they're going to get into it. And they're just like, you know what, Justin, this doesn't work. This is a bullshit company.
Well, I mean, it's crazy, right? Because like we get into this industry. How long I always ask people, how long have you been in the industry, Nick?
Since 2005.
I'm like, cool. So you have 17 years and you still can't be consistent on Facebook. Not you, but as an example of a conversation. I mean, Nick, you've been consistent on Facebook in 17 years. What makes you think the VA is going to come on day one and understand your entire Facebook social media strategy when you couldn't even pull it off in 17 years?
Well, that's what resonated with me when we talked about this is like how many people, again, wanted a virtual assistant to go make phone calls. And Justin, you had told me this, and this is what resonated. I'm like, all right, you're not trying to just sell somebody something they don't need or that they don't want or they're actually going to be successful with, is that they're like, you don't make the phone calls yourself. So how is this person in another country who doesn't understand the real estate concept yet, how are they going to make those calls?
Well, and that's why we're one of the only companies in the VA space for years that we would not allow people to have cold callers. I've since created a company now completely that does cold calling for people, but that's why we denied it, because it's like, you didn't even make cold calls. Why should a VA know how to do it?
Yeah, but because of you, Justin, and the Accelerator program, so this will be a video testimonial that you can use and just promote out there, is that because of you, since 2020, I had 0 virtual assistants. Now it's August 2022, and we have 13 remote team members, and that's growing. We're bringing on 3 to 4 a month because of the accelerator program for $1,000 a month.
This statement may be the beginning of my testimonial because I need 2 specific right now. Like again, like that's Jesse and I were sitting at lunch, and I was trying to figure out how to do stuff. I was sharing that with you before. Like, I did not know this existed. So this is something I'm 100% going to look into that I had no clue about an hour and a half ago.
Well, and part of the reason we don't put it out into the public a lot is because like other VA companies slam us for it.
Yeah.
They don't know. They're like, how is this even possible?
They'll never find out.
And
Nobody watches this.
Well, and I'll tell you why. It's super possible because we just have a badass organization of 90 people, right? Like, I don't even know, to be honest with you, how half of the things work in those 90 people, but they're the right people in the right position that can recruit better than anybody in the industry. And so that's why it's possible, right? Any other company would be like, hey, Nick, 13 people, okay, that's going to be $2,000 a month each. You're going to be on a 12-month contract, so you're $25,000 a month. If the market goes under, well, sorry, Nick, you still got 11 more months on your contract, right? With our model, market goes under tomorrow, the whole world burns down, you can let them go.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you could if you needed to. Like, you're no contracts or anything. So.
Well, and look, the other way it went like this is when I got out of my other contracts in the past, I just tried to go do it myself. Like, I went on the Filipino job posting Craigslist.
Online Jobs PH.
Yeah, Online Jobs PH, and you have to pay for that. You get bombarded with resumes. Mm-hmm. You go on, you do interviews, and then you bring them on, and guess what they do? They go away.
Mm-hmm. Or they stay, and they've also applied to 75 other real estate agents' ads and secretly worked 12 jobs.
Mm-hmm. That is something that actually, I'm glad you brought that up really quick because a lot of people don't know this, and this is something I'm super intentional about with my team, is that I know that they have side hustles, and I don't know how they do it, how they're burning, how they're even getting any sleep or living, and I make my intention of saying, I don't ever want you to cheat on me.
Yeah.
Right? So my goal, and I had a conversation with one of my top remote working team members today, and I put it out there. I said, hey, what's your goal, right? And her goal is to make enough money to put her son in her son's already in private school to be able to pay for that, but it's not the best private school.
Yep.
So I said, how much is the best private school? And she says $2,000. I said, US dollars, please. Yeah. $2,000 a year. I'm like, okay, $2,000. So I said, can I come up with a plan that we execute on, and I will make sure that your son gets in that $2,000 a year school, and that you're not coming out of pocket that.
Yep.
And I will tell you right now, like and I said, my intention is because I never want you to go get a side hustle.
Yeah.
I never want you to think about cheating on the Good Home team.
Yep.
And she lit up because it was over Google Meetup.
Of course.
You could see the almost like the stress relief coming down because $1,000 is still quite a bit of money.
Yeah, Nick, it's crazy. Like a lot of people knew I just went to the Philippines. I flew to the Philippines, took 90 team members on a flight to a private island, spent all weekend there, $13,000, all inclusive, 4 days, 90 people. Like, it just shows you how far the money goes.
Here's the crazy thing is the Good Home team in Livian is doing a pickleball event on Friday.
Which you guys are going to dominate us on. You know what I know about pickleball as of right now? Nothing.
I'll play for you. I'm great at pickleball.
Are you really?
I might be the greatest pickleball player who's ever lived because I've never played before, so we just don't know yet.
But Justin, how can we get the Livian and the Good Home team to go to a private island in the Philippines? I'm sure Brian and I can scrounge up $13,000.
So, Nick, cool you say that. As part of the accelerator program into 2023, we're actually coordinating a client's trip to go and meet their VAs on the private island.
What?
Yeah, so we're going to let everybody meet their virtual assistants. We'll coordinate all the travel of your VA to the island. Obviously, we'll coordinate your travel to the island as well. I mean, it'll come at cost to our clients, but, you might have to sponsor your VA for $200 to get to the island.
So all I have to do is refer 5 clients, and you'll fly me private to this.
I mean, Nick, at that point, at this point, as client number 2 in the company, you can do whatever you want. So.
Oh, man. Well, here's the thing. What was that, Jesse? Oh. Is that, number one, I think everyone should go check out Justin Nelson. Justin was one of the first sponsors of the show. we probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Justin.
Assuredly.
Yeah, there's no way we could have kept this going and have this amazing studio
amazing setup.
without Justin. So we appreciate you, and I would check out sphererocketva.com. Go check out the Accelerator program. Last question on this: should you join the Accelerator program if you only need one?
The answer is yes, in my opinion, because, again, it's our only program as of January 1st, 2023. So if you only want our old program, you only got a few more months left. The answer is yes, because what I feel is in our new program, you get access to the 4 yearly masterminds. You get to come in and meet with people in person that are doing what you want to do, which I think is important. And it also gets you access. So we have 8 coaches per week that all have their specialties. So like if you're like, I need my VA in executive admin, we have a coach that's an executive admin coach that's been with us for 6 months. So she has 45 training videos already made that are an hour a piece on everything they do, the files, the everything. Social media, our social media director, 45 videos of everything. And so I'd say yes, because you get access to all of that.
And I mean, it's your company, but I would say the obvious thing to me is once you clear up that initial kind of distraction that first VA uses, it's going to pop ideas open in your head.
Yeah.
That's now going to make you maybe start looking at VA2 and VA3 and all of those types of things too.
And Nick, the honest conversation I had with some people is I was like, the way we've structured it now, if $1,600, $1,000 to us and $600 to the VA is too much for you based on needing a VA, you might not be ready for leverage yet, right? Possibly, right? There are some situations where you're trying to get it cheaper for other reasons, it's scale and things like that. But for most people, if you're not ready for that $1,500 a month yet, and you're trying to go, can I get it half time for $800 or a quarter time for $250? You're probably not in the right mindset or financial situation to leverage yet.
Absolutely. So. All right, so let's start wrapping this up and thank our sponsors again. The MortgageMikeOfTexas.com. If you're looking to get that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, then you definitely need to get with Michael DeBacker, Mortgage Mike. He is licensed here in Texas and in Oklahoma. He is helping out a lot of our clients right now. So he is starting to see that buyer activity pick back up. The rates have pushed back down. So get with Michael DeBacker, MortgageMikeOfTexas.com, as well as once you get that buyer under contract or once you get that listing. Actually, Theron and I are working on something. I think he's getting with you guys is with Armadillo home warranty. So Armadillo.1/tour is, when you get that buyer under contract, make sure to connect Theron with your client, or when you take that new listing, put that seller coverage on there. He's got something cool in there. So reach out to Theron, Armadillo.1/tour. Talk to him about the seller coverage because you'll really like that, as well as once you get that buyer under contract, get them connected with your buyer and tell them how great Armadillo is. And then if they're buying a rental property, then they need to talk to Dana Wynn at Homeward DFW. So homewarddfw.com. And she will be able to definitely help you out when it comes to analyzing the rental market, if it's a good time to rent it or maybe sell it. That was part of that 3-way call that I had with her was should we sell it, should we rent it, and we walked him down, and ultimately the dude's going to sell one of his houses and rent out the other one.
Does this thing turn off at an hour?
Does it?
Well, I mean, I'm not leaving without asking a hypothetical question.
But we're getting there, dude.
I mean,
calm down.
I want like 5 because actually we don't even need that. I already got some for you.
Oh, please do, because the ones that I was coming up with were terrible.
All right, I've got 3 minutes before I have to leave for my appointment.
Okay, perfect.
This is wonderful. I want to hear it. I'm going to answer the first one for sure.
Okay.
Regardless how ridiculous it is.
Hypothetical question? Oh, no, mine goes last for sure.
Well, you got to go first because we don't have any.
Pull up the list of hypothetical questions.
It's not
this is such a fancy studio. It's got like a list of hypothetical questions coming from the sky. I really like the one where it said, hypothetically, if you were to go into 2023 without 3 famous people, who would they be?
Without 3
Without?
famous people?
Like basically you killed them.
Oh, gosh.
I don't know if this can get you in trouble on a podcast.
Yeah, I don't.
Let's just go with
Maybe.
one. Who is one? Who would
One
you'd
famous
wipe out?
person. Doesn't have to be a nice person. It just has to be a famous person. Who do we all mutually agree we hate, but is also famous?
Who's the guy that runs InfoWars?
Oh, Alex.
Alex whatever, dude.
Okay,
That
that's
guy
fair.
can be gone.
Yeah, he got shit on pretty hard.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah. Because unfortunately, that guy's famous and, that dude.
out there, yeah.
That dude
I don't want to die, but can we just never hear from Amber Heard again? I'm tired of her resurgence in the past couple of weeks
No,
of
yeah.
mattering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Who would the last one be?
Well, I mean, the whole internet thinks Andrew Tate right now.
Bro, don't you know what? Honestly, I'm okay with this one. And I'll say this out in the public. If you listen to Andrew Tate and think he has good ideas, like, just keep that to yourself. But also, like, if you're just following this dude thinking like that he says anything of any substance, I'm just going to question your intelligence at a super high level.
You know what
He's the most numbnuts ass person.
Wait, so you're saying you want to eliminate him, or he?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with Andrew Tate not showing up to January 1.
I will tell you,
Deuce,
I don't know who
goose,
this guy
deuce,
is.
trace.
So I didn't know who he was,
I don't know who he
but
is.
somehow I was following him on Instagram because I saw people posting about it, and then I guess he says he's a top G. Like this is what
Bro.
David
Sounds
says
like
all the
somebody
time.
I would hate.
Yeah, and so I go look at him, I'm like, oh shit, I'm following this guy. So it makes me look like one of those guys because I guess he talks bad about women.
It's not even just he talks bad about women, and I mean that's enough. Just in general, his whole freaking fake alpha male nonsense is like just covering up the biggest insecurity in the world,
Yeah,
dude. Because he can kick people hard, he gets away with running his mouth.
You know what? This really hit a nerve.
I can't
Kelderman. He was
stand
low
this
energy.
guy,
we were both
dude.
low energy until you talked about.
I knew it would strike a nerve.
If I could fight, I would beat his ass. But he's legitimate world class
Can
fighter,
we-
so he'd wear me out.
Jesse, make sure to only go with this part and cut Kelderman's out and send it to.
Just send it to
I'll
him.
send it to him.
Cool, bro. Have him on. I'll
Oh, kick
shit
his
over the camera.
ass.
Or he's not even. Well, don't do that because if he comes on your podcast, I heard he gets deleted because he's been deleted off the internet.
Oh, that's right.
He's deleted from the internet. How do you delete somebody from the internet?
Dude, that's insane. Literally, he's gone. You can't even look him up on TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram. There's not a
Really?
single thing on him.
Man, that's interesting.
It's like literally.
Was that your hypothetical?
Well, no, that came off the list. I just thought.
Yeah,
that was
everybody's
cool.
removing his accounts. It says.
Yeah.
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 What's your real hypothetical?
So my hypothetical that I ask most real estate agents is if I came into your business today and I offered to purchase it from you for $100 million, yet you had to basically sell 10 homes a month forever. But as long as you sold 10 homes a month forever, you'd get to keep the $100 million.
Is the hypothetical would I take it or not?
Would you take it or not? Would you take the $100 million and sell 10
not.
homes
Absolutely
a month
not.
forever?
No.
The team has to sell 10 homes, or I personally
You
have
personally
to.
have to sell 10 homes.
Absolutely
So-
not.
No,
I'm
dog.
out. I eject from that one.
I just think there's a point where I'm just not gonna be able to sustain it. Even if I can sit here right now and be like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. Like,
Even
just be a
like-
point where I'm like, nah, I can't.
Do you know
do
why I
it.
asked that?
Why?
Because for most agents, 10 homes a month doesn't even get them their dream income.
Yep.
And you just told me you wouldn't do it
Yep.
Yep.
without other people.
There's no way.
So just
See, look
Yeah.
at that.
it's a lighthearted one. Nick always comes, just as a heads up, if you're ever at a conference with Nick or anybody, he comes up. The first time I learned about this game was in a penthouse of a Las Vegas wild night, and Nick's coming up with hypothetical questions.
That
and
was
this is-
not me, bro.
It was definitely you. It was you, Elizabeth, and Nate. And I was like,
Dang, we're not narking on
calling
him.
them out.
I was like, who am I with right now?
This sounds like a day at our house. There's 4 boys between 8 and 16, and all day long, it's like if you had to be picked up by aliens or had to go sit in the middle of the ocean for, it's just like the most
be picked up by
ridiculous,
aliens.
idiotic scenarios. And I'm
Aliens
like-
all day.
And like my dad brain is like, neither of those would happen.
It's not realistic. Yeah. I mean, look, I would say that the ones that Justin heard that time in Vegas, I mean, they were
probably-
definitely great. They're better than would you rather be picked up by an alien or
I
sit in the
guarantee mine are mega PG compared to whatever y'all were talking about.
ocean? I mean, look, it's about saving your family.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Like-
All right, I got to go to an appointment. Bye.
All right, let's get us out of here.
Oh, just no outro.
Yeah, no,
Jesus.
there's not.
Just that's it.
Kelderman just ejected.
All right, go now.
All right. Hey, thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. Checking out another episode of the only real estate podcast worth listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button. Right? We're dropping more stuff on YouTube constantly. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, please. We're really, really focused on building up those reviews so we can get more searchable content on there. And if you're on Facebook, like everyone else is, go over and search the only real estate group worth being a part of. You're going to want to go join that group. I'm telling you right now, there's so much gold in there. So go join, share us on YouTube, and leave us that iTunes review, please. Go do it right now. We'll see you on the next show.